Hello.
Looks like Christy must have went ahead and hit the record button, so I don't have to. Or
Well, I
somebody.
always forget, so I'm so glad she reminded us.
Yes. So
Does anybody else find it creepy, her voice, whenever it says recording?
Yes,
Recording in progress.
every time it freaks me out. Like I was talking a while ago when it started, and it was kind of caught me off guard. Like,
Yeah,
don't
a
like
whole
that
new
voice.
level of creepy that shouldn't exist. I'm just saying.
yeah. Okay, so do you think everybody's in here? Do you think we have everybody? How
I think so.
about, Mark, do you want to start? Or do you want me
Sure.
to start?
Yeah, let me pull up the agenda. So the good news is I don't think we're going to take all the way till 3:30. Does anybody object to that? Because if you do, I'm happy to keep you here till 3:30, but I know that I've been in several of your classrooms already this year. Oh, Trent does, so I'm sorry. We're going to have to go ahead and stay till 3:30. Everyone's throwing their virtual paper wads at you right now, Trent, just so you're aware. Hey, so those of you that don't know me, I'm Mark Birch, and so I'm the marketing and finance cluster team lead here in BMITE. So we're going to go over a few areas that we covered at New Teacher Academy. Some of you may or may not have been in those sessions. We're going to cover it maybe a little bit more in depth because some things may have changed just a little bit since we went through New Teacher Academy. But the first thing that we're going to start with is the 412 funds. And the first thing that I want to say about that, since Christy just spoke about the reporting, right? This all kind of ties in because I know from being in the classroom that completing those reports sometimes can be monotonous, tedious, frustrating, all the above. However, doing it on time and doing it properly is what allows us to go to the legislatures to be able to get that money, right? And then hopefully year after year, being able to increase those funds that come into your classroom. So I know it's painful at times, but just know that we're doing it for a reason. And that data allows us to go and lobby and advocate for you to be able to bring more resources to your classroom. So while we're doing that, I'm assuming, Christy, I've got the ability to share my screen. So as always, I'm going to start by just going to CTU. And I've already got these documents pulled up, but I just want to make sure everybody knows where to go. If for some reason you do not have a login to CTU, please email myself or Christy, and we will make sure that you have one by the end of the week to make sure you can get in here. Please keep in mind that my screen's going to look different than yours because they give me everything, it seems like, and so I get lost all the time. But of course, we're going to go to BMITE. And then the one that I always have my teachers bookmark is the teacher resources. And for today, we're just going to stay in teacher resources and we're going to stay in evaluations and program information. And I just kind of want to show you the information that I pulled, and I'm going to work out of Adobe actually because it's easier versus waiting on this stuff to download. But we're going to look at the 412 incentive guidelines, and then we're going to look in a little bit at the 5-year evaluation, the rotation schedule for this year, as well as the 5-year rotation. And why is that 5-year rotation important? Because even though you may not be stressed about it this year, you may be wondering, well, when is my 5-year coming up and when will I be stressing out about that? So I'll give you some tips on how you can look ahead and start planning for when your 5-year evaluation for your program is coming up. So I wanted to kind of show you where you would find that information. So again, BMITE Teacher Resources under Evaluations and Program Information. So let's start with the incentive money, right? So that is the money that comes into your program from the BMITE division. If you're a BITE program, that's $12,933 per year, paid quarterly. If you're a marketing program, it's $6,227. I don't know the historical background of why that money's different or whoever made that decision. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I do know that, from Teacher Academy, there are plans to one day try to get that money to be the same across the board. I don't know the timeline for that, but I do know that that's in the works, and hopefully in the near future, they can get that done. This sheet here, which if you're a new teacher, as we come out and do your visits, we give this sheet to you. And it kind of gives you what you can buy, what you can't buy with your incentive money, right? So this is kind of a one-page sheet. And so as you can imagine, we couldn't list everything on here. So if you're ever coming across something, you don't know whether it qualifies or not, I would just recommend that you email or call your program specialist and say, hey, is this going to qualify? For example, I know that the pandemic is still going strong, in some areas stronger than others, right? And so we've had some educators reach out to us and say, hey, can I buy disposable headphones for this year because of COVID? Well, we have made an exception for this year, and some programs can buy disposable headphones because of COVID, right? That's not something we would always approve yearly, but because of the pandemic we're in, we have made exceptions to certain things. So if you ever have a question, just reach out to us. Kind of some golden rules. If you're buying it for your program, it needs to stay in your classroom, right? So, some of our, and this is more in Christy's area, so she can probably speak better to it, but like some of our multimedia programs, if they're doing stuff for the football program and jumbotrons and stuff like that, if they're buying it to help those students learn about that, the equipment still has to stay in that classroom. Or if they're doing something for the school, you can't buy monitors and place them out like in the commons area or the lunchroom. That equipment has to stay in your classroom. Things like that. Christy, do you have anything to add in regards to that area and things that you've seen in your region?
No, I think the biggest one is schools wanting our teachers to purchase monitors to put out in common areas. That's usually the biggest hurdle that we face with media. Perfect.
And the only other thing I was going to say about 412 funds, I've had some teachers in the past say, well, I was just trying to be a good steward with the money and not spend the money because, I was trying to be a good steward and not spend the money. What I'm going to tell you is spend the money, because when you don't spend the money, it's like any other grant or money from your school, they're just going to give it to somebody else. And so we run a report every year on every program to make sure that you are spending your money. So don't save it, right? It's not like I do my kids, like, hey, save your money so you can buy something worthwhile later. No, that's not how we want to do it here. You want to buy the things that your program needs with this money every year. Like I said, otherwise the legislature's going to move that money to some other entity or to some other program, and then we're not going to have access to that money. So please find ways to spend that money for your program however you can. So was there anything else on 412 that I failed to mention, Christy?
I don't think so. And that will lead right into the inventory sheet that you shared with me, because you're awesome.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to encourage all of you, especially if you're in a larger school. And I'm going to go back to CTU real quick, because I added this today. I call it a 412 expenditure spreadsheet. And when I was in the classroom, I'm OCD, right? So anytime I spent money on my program, I use this spreadsheet to write it down, because we're all human. And especially at larger schools where you may have 7 or 8 BITE teachers, and you submit a PO on your program, they may inadvertently put it on a different teacher's PID or a different program. And then at the end of the year, your numbers are wrong. Well, I would always put the date that I purchased something, the PO number, whatever it was, the price. I would keep track of my own stuff. So at the end of the year, I knew exactly how much I spent, what was in my program, and then I have track of it. This also helped when it comes to my 5-year evaluation. I had a spreadsheet of exactly what was in my classroom and what I spent. So I had it. That way, if there was ever a discrepancy, I could go to my incumbents clerk or whoever was doing that tally at your school, whoever does that, to make sure that the information was correct. Because just like teachers, sometimes there's high turnover in that department as well. And so you just want to make sure that that information is correct. So with that, I'm going to turn inventory over to Miss Christy Lofton.
All right, thank you. And I don't have any fun things to show you, sorry. My suggestion on with your 412 report that he's done here with the incentive, putting it in that spreadsheet. You're going to have POs, you're going to have your invoices that you're going to turn in. I really encourage you to keep all of that information, whether you scan it and you put it in a folder to keep for school year 2021-22, or whether you keep it in an old school notebook. I was an old school notebook because it was just easier to keep those papers right there and not have to scan them in because I already had them. So keep up with all of that information, and that can help you with your inventory. So here is my suggestion for inventory. Make sure you have one. I visited some schools recently that we didn't have an inventory. So make sure that you are keeping record of when you purchased your items. How many desktop computers do you have? How many monitors do you have? What are the monitors' model numbers? What did you purchase your money with? What did you purchase your items with? Did you use 412 money, or was it purchased with Carl Perkins money? Was it purchased with any of your BPA activity fund money maybe? Make sure that you are keeping track of all of your purchases in your inventory. You could do maybe once a year, utilize your students in your classroom. That's kind of a skill that they need to know how to have. How many jobs have you had that you had to help do inventory? Even in just a regular office setting, you kind of have to know what kind of equipment you have. So have your students help you, have them help you find the numbers so that you can keep a list of all the numbers that you're supposed to be responsible for. And so not only save your inventory on your hard drive, but also save it in a cloud drive, because if something were to happen to your classroom or your school, if there was theft or a fire, horrible weather, water damage, you need to make sure that you have all of your information in inventory, because if you don't have a list of your inventory, your administration is going to be one unhappy person. Insurance is going to need to know how to replace all of your equipment. You can be the hero if that time ever comes. So make sure that you have everything listed with purchase dates, because anything over, what is it, $500, there's a rule of thumb, anything over $500, make sure that you list it. Now I'm kind of a weirdo, and I even listed my staplers, and because those are things that would have to be replaced too. Does anybody have any questions about inventory? Inventory is something that we will want to look at, that we will, when we come in for a 5-year evaluation, we're going to ask you to see your inventory, or we're going to ask you to share it in CTU in one of those folders. And when we do, we want to be able to come into your classroom and go, oh yeah, I see everything here. Everything that's on that inventory, I'm able to see in the classroom. Okay, that was painless. Mark?
Christy?
Yes.
Somebody just asked in the chat if there's a spreadsheet for CT or in CTU for inventory. I just texted Mark a second ago and told him that I have one that I've perfected over 6 years and give out to every CTE teacher that I know. And I'd be more than happy to send it to you to upload to CTU.
That would be fantastic. We would love that.
Okay, so there's the answer to that question.
Awesome.
Perfect. Are we ready for 5-year now, Christy?
Yes.
Okay, so rolling right into 5 years. So as you guys probably seen when we were at New Teacher Academy, this is the 5-year evaluation form, right? And so previously we would say, okay, take this form, read through it, and then on CTU, go take your documentation and throw it into one of these 6 folders, right? Okay, so we've kind of changed that up now. Now we've actually created a course to walk you through the actual evaluation process. And I'm actually going to pull up a copy of what this looks like. But before I do, I want to kind of show you. So for this year, if you are on the 5-year evaluation schedule for this year, you likely have already received an email or communication from our office that, hey, your evaluation's coming up. Here's the date of it. Here's who's coming out, et cetera, et cetera. If you have one coming up in the future, you would see it on this report. And this is where I went into BMITE teacher resources, evaluations and program information, and then the 5-year on-site evaluation cycle. So what you can do is go find your school over here on the left-hand side, and then over here in these columns, on the date, X marks the spot. The X in that year column is the year that your school is scheduled for their 5-year evaluation, okay? And so what I would encourage you to do is each year, like when you register for fall conference or state conference, or you do your salary and teaching and you're saving those documents, I would put them in a folder somewhere on your desktop or whatever your system is for keeping organized. That way, when it's time for your 5-year evaluation, you know where that information is, easily accessible. So when it's time for you to go into this course and upload your information, you know where it's at. It's not going to be stressful. There's going to be no anxiety. You're ready to rock and roll. Any questions on knowing when your 5-year evaluation is going to be? And I can't see chat. So Christy, if there's anything in there, let me know. Good. Okay. So what we've done is based on the actual evaluation form, going through each standard and each quality indicator, we've now built a course, and there's even an actual video that shows you how to upload the documentation. But standard 1, there's nothing to upload for standard 1 now. Standard 1 is everything that we do on site, asking about your administration, things like that. But then starting with standard 2, it says, okay, upload your 3-year program strategic plan. 2.2, upload your class schedule. 2.3, upload your course syllabi. So what we've tried to do is walk you through step by step exactly what has to be uploaded for each piece of evidence throughout the 5-year evaluation. So the goal is, if everything's uploaded before we come out on site, it makes that day very easy when we come out, because all we're really looking at is standard 1 and then your classroom, and then basically just getting to kind of talk with you about your program success, your student success, and kind of just getting to spend the day learning more about your program, learning more about you and ways that we can support you, be a resource for you and an asset for you and your program. And so we're hoping that this will be a better way for you to really understand exactly what needs to be uploaded within each piece of the puzzle, so to speak, in regards to that evaluation. So any questions on this component? How many people are stressed out about their 5-year evaluation this year? I see a few people on the call that I know have their 5-year this year. Matter of fact, a few people I've already seen in their course this year. So great job doing that. They've already uploaded some stuff. You know, I hope all of you know that our goal is to help you through this process. You know, we feel like if you guys aren't successful doing this, we've not done a good enough job preparing you or helping you. We certainly aren't trying to close any programs or find problems with programs. We're trying to find ways to better support you and find ways to be helpful. So I hope you never see it as us trying to find issues. We're trying to help find solutions. And at the end of the day, our goal is the same, is to maximize the benefit for students and their long-term success. So that is the absolute number one goal. So unless there's questions about 5-year, I am going to turn it back over to Ms. Lofton.
There is a question in the chat. It says, I want to
Okay.
make sure I understand what you're saying. We can upload yearly, so at the 5-year, we're ready. Is that correct?
So this course only goes out when it's your year for the 5-year evaluation. But what I would encourage you to do is keep your own local files for all of your documentation until it's your year for your 5-year evaluation. And then that year will give you a course. Then you can start uploading your documentation. Does that help? I'm not sure who asked that, but.
Yes, it helps, she said. Okay. Any other questions? So we upload all 5 years in that 1 year. That was
Yes.
the next question.
And you know, a lot of questions that we've received so far on this is from year to year, teachers end up teaching different things, right? Like, well, 3 years ago, I taught fundamentals of tech. Well, now I'm teaching XYZ. Each one of these assignments will only give you a maximum number of uploads, okay? So what I tell them is start with what you're teaching most recently, like what you're teaching now, and work backwards. And once you've reached the maximum number of uploads, that's going to be enough evidence right there. So a lot of times it may only go back about 3 years, depending on how many different subjects you've been teaching, but that's going to be enough evidence for us to be able to get a snapshot of everything you've been doing over those number of years. So don't stress about it. If 5 years ago, you were doing something different and there wasn't enough uploads to capture all of that, we understand the different hats that you wear out there, and you may have been doing something totally different 5 years ago. It's okay.
Okay, any other questions about the 5-year evaluation? If not, we will move on into talk about virtual job shadow. Uh-oh, where did it go? Wait. Jerry says wait. Jerry, did you have a question for us? I don't know where you are.
Jerry's in Comanche.
Yeah, and I'm tapping, okay?
Well, you can
I
talk
just
to us.
can't, yeah, I can't type as fast as you're wanting me to. There'll be typos in there.
Jerry, if you want to just ask your question, or you're welcome to join us and ask away.
That would be great. So then I wouldn't have to type it.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're a teacher and you take over a program like I did, and the 5-year evaluation, what if you take over it like in the middle of it? And so you hope you can find the other teacher's stuff, but you may not be able to find the other teacher's stuff. So do you just really concern yourself with keeping track of what you have done?
Well, that's where you start. And then you may have to
Okay.
stop them, like on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You're going to have to track them down somehow. No, I'm only kidding. I forgot this was recording. I probably should not have said that. It was totally a joke. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Do not do that. Yes, you know, a lot of times, you know, you may check with your administration. You know, sometimes they may have access to some folders if there was a common drive at that school where they saved some of that information. Sometimes they don't. And so sometimes all we have to work with, Jerry, is whatever you have there locally since you've taken over. And then all we can do when we come out to do the 5-year evaluation is make a note of that. So yes, do all you can to see what you can find, but there have been times when unfortunately all we have is what you've had since you've taken over. But that's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
And don't stress, because we have been there and we absolutely understand how stressful it can be, but know that he already said it, know that we are not coming to look at how we can close your program, because we don't want to close programs. We want to make sure that you guys are successful, and we will do what we can do to help you gather the information or find the information. We will do everything we can help you at whatever we can do to help you.
Hey, Mark, to what she was saying, Jerry, I guess this goes directly to you. I was in that scenario. I put it in the chat that like my first year teaching BMITE was the 5-year evaluation, and my 5-year evaluation first meeting was 2 weeks after I was hired. And at the time, before Christy and Mark did their little shuffling, Mark was my supervisor, and I was flailing about not knowing what to do. I mean, at least I was a career tech teacher prior to business. I was an ag teacher, so I knew what a 5-year evaluation was. But here's my advice to you. A, search through every filing cabinet you can find, because I did find a lot in that area. The second one, this is the best advice I can give all of you on a 5-year evaluation, especially as new teachers. Go talk to your secretaries. They have already filed 90% of the paperwork anyway. So whether or not the teacher did a good job of collecting that, your secretaries will have that information. And this is how you get on their good side. Sonic drinks, flowers, candy, any of those things, and they will literally do whatever you want for them. I know that sounds dumb and petty and childish, but I promise you, my 2 secretaries, I could not do my job without them, just as much as I couldn't do my job without my custodian. So I heard a professor once say, if you take care of those people, they'll make your lives great. But if you don't, they can burn your house down. He wasn't kidding. And so that's my advice to you. My 412 stuff is all ran through my superintendent secretary. My activity account is my principal secretary. And those ladies get annoyed at me because I am also, like Mark, very OCD. I want to see everything in paper. I want it in my hand. I want to touch it, smell it, taste it, feel it. And they get annoyed by that. But now they understand why, because as I transition out of the classroom and up here to Stillwater, all of that stuff is taken care of whoever takes my position. And we've set a culture there where it's easy for them to find that as they're making that transition. So I hope that helps. And so just some ideas. I'm sorry I took over.
Don't apologize. That was perfect. That was good information. Thank you. And Jerry, you're not alone. I just chatted with a teacher. Was it yesterday, Tara? Yeah, yesterday. She's in a very similar situation. So you're not alone. It's a crazy time, but don't stress. Okay. We're here rooting for you. So are there any other questions? I'm going to move on. Okay. So virtual job shadow, it is a wonderful opportunity for your students. I'm going to, if this is something that you decide this would be a great idea, then we are asking that you contact Carrie DeMuth. You can email me and I can get your information over to Carrie. I'm going to play for you the short video that's on the website. We're going to see how this works. Hopefully it will work because it's kind of a neat video and it highlights some of our teachers. So let's see. Let me know how this works. It may not. Is that good?
Textbooks are a thing of the past. We have 80 teachers and 10,700 students in our district. The entire mission that we have is we're preparing these kids for a career. Kids have a goal, they'll reach for a goal.
I had a general idea of what I wanted to do as a career, but with virtual job shadow, you can actually take an interest test and it gives you a bunch of different career choices and options that you might not have considered before.
Kids always think they know what they want to do. Then they go and take the test and realize there's other things that might be available to them in this big wide world of careers.
So you can actually watch videos of people who do that profession for their job.
I have to keep them off sometimes. No, get your lesson done first.
Even if you know what you want to do, you can use it to solidify what you picked, to prepare, and even apply for future jobs.
absolutely a wonderful site. Kids love it, teachers love it, and virtual job shadow is a piece well worth the dollars we spend. Because we have to be very judicious with our funds. It's become a no-brainer.
When I can stand behind a product like Virtual Job Shadow and say, this is real, this is valid, and this is matter to your life, that just makes my day. I think all teachers should have it in their classrooms.
Okay, well, I was told that the audio was horrible. I'm so sorry about that. So I will put this website in. See if I can do it here in our chat box. There you go. So if Virtual Job Shadow is something you want to do, it's a free resource for our teachers. They have several spots still open. And if that's something you want to do, please let me know. Let Carrie Demuth know, either one. We can make sure that you get your classroom set up. Okay. Challenges or questions. Don't be quiet here. Don't make me just sit and look at each one of you or call you out. Because I know some of your challenges, because I've been in your classroom this last week or two. What are some challenges, or what are some questions that you have just in general with classroom? Anyone?
This is Steve. I shared this earlier in our water cooler meeting, but it seems like my biggest challenge is the variety of age groups that are thrown into my classes. You know, I have high school and have 9th through 12th, and there's a huge difference of skill levels. You know, I have kids that can write code, and then kids in the same class that haven't done a Google Doc before. So it's challenging to have that huge variety in almost every class. It's be nice if they could, and I know it's a scheduling thing, but it'd be nice if they could keep, you know, my freshmen together, and then my, you know, more advanced students together, so we could. It's hard teaching 2 and 3 different subjects every, you know, six periods a day. It just is it's all consuming, you know, and it's unfair to the children. So I don't know, but that's just that. I don't know why it really bothers me that happens. I don't know, but I have great support from the school. But it's just, I know it's just kind of like, well, we got to put them somewhere. That's okay. And I had new students yesterday. They keep adding, you know, if they're kicked out of another class, I'm the catch-all. So I don't know. I guess that's how it goes.
Mark, do you have any words of wisdom? I know for a lot of our schools, especially in rural communities, you are teaching, you are the teacher that's teaching all the subjects. So I know that happens, and I know some of you have 2 and 3 classes going on at the same class period, and it's very challenging. My words of wisdom are, the only way I was able to survive was being super organized. And that was the only way that I could keep them straight. That was the only way that I knew how to make it happen. Mark?
Yeah, Steve, I guess I would have to kind of look at your schedule and see what you're teaching. And do you have fundamentals of tech?
That's kind of what I'm teaching, but that's just so I'm starting out and trying to get everybody up to the same speed, even though that's not a title of one of my classes. You know, they've titled them, you know, design tools, multimedia, and some of those type of things. You know, so and then the other thing is trying to get all my computers with Adobe on them. That's kind of why I'm stalling until I get everything so that I have Dreamweaver and After Effects, and then I've got to learn some more of that stuff too. It's not like, you know, I know all those programs, you know, I know some Photoshop and things like that, but there's a lot to learn, and I need to get the tools for the kids to even teach it. So it's all there. It's just trying to get those programs, you know, up and running. And that's kind of been you know, our IT department's slammed at the beginning of the year, and there's lots going on. So I'm sure everyone's faced these things. It's just, I'm probably not as organized as you are. So that's the challenge.
Well, it takes some time, but the only other thing I was going to say is if you're having that wide range of skill gap, right? Because a lot of your freshmen don't know a lot of the basics, and then you've got 11th and 12th graders who are ready to move on. One thing that your district might look at is possibly moving the FOT down into the 8th grade. So that way, by the time they're freshmen, they already have some of those skills. So, maybe we can set up a call or something with, we get some time, maybe we can look at that, building something. We can't solve it for this year, right? Probably because you're already going. But as we move forward, there's probably some things we can do to help move that forward. So let's maybe shoot me an email and I can kind of look at everything and see if there's something we can do looking into next year to see if we can't help, downgrade some of that chaos for you. So.
Well, I thought, I was going to just have a sit down with the if either admin or the counselors who set up the scheduling and talk to them before this year, because coming in late this year I didn't have any say so. You're taking what you're dealt, and so I will. I think we're going to have those conversations. If we're going to move forward and see what we can do.
Yeah. Well, if you need help or ideas, or you want us to be involved in those conversations, please just let us know. We're happy to help however we can. So.
I shall. I appreciate everybody listening, but I just didn't know. I know I've heard some similar problems out there. It's challenging for first year people. We're learning on the way. So my strongest thing is I truly do care, and I think the kids understand that. And so they're helping me and they're working with me on this. They can appreciate what I'm doing, and I'm trying to work with each one of them and let them know I care, and I don't want them to get bored. But then some of them are liking it because they really know the material. So they're like, oh, this is great, Mr. Wheeler. And they help the other kids, which that's a way of teaching too, helping others, because I give them bonuses for helping the other kids. So I'm making it work. So I shouldn't sound like I'm whining, because I'm not. I'm just, that's just one of the challenges. So
Sure.
We'll get through it.
I definitely don't see that as whining. Absolutely not. I think you're not alone, and I think you're handling it well. And I think just what you said, if the students see that you care, that makes a huge difference in how the class is going to go for the rest of the year. Definitely. We had a question, I had a direct message sent to me, resources for extremely low performing students that are in my class for inclusion purposes. Any of you that have been in the classroom for very long have any recommendations about how to work with extremely low performing students?
Okay, I got some ideas.
You, Trent.
Am I the only seasoned teacher other than you two in here?
I don't know. I don't know who all's in here.
Okay, so I want to say something to Wheeler first. One of the ideas that I would have for you is I've been lucky enough, let me rephrase that, to put on conferences on project and work-based learning. And the part of the reason that I constructed my classroom the way I did was for that reason right there, is I had these 8th graders and freshmen who were at one level, and then I had juniors and seniors over here at a completely different level. And so I just created an environment to where those lessons were in that scenario where they were the same lesson, but this category over here was advanced and this was intro. Maybe I had some intermediates in those bigger classes, and I made them work together. And then I just created my rubric grading off of those 3 categories. I don't know if that helps, but I'm more than happy to help you. You can get my contact information from either one of them, or I can put it in the chat. And I'm more than happy to help you with that. If that's something that would work for your classroom. I don't know what your classroom looks like.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's kind of what I did. I've got some kids that do coding, and so they're doing the same assignments, but I let them write code and use some other programs. And I tell them I expect a little more out of their, like a slide presentation. I expect some more unique slides than the generic type that I'm getting from my other one. So, and I'm making it work. So I probably made it sound worse than it is. And it's teaching me to learn how to teach that way, and which is very helpful, I think. Probably the biggest compliment was when I told him I was going to have a sub today. It's the first time I've been gone. All my H class whined that, oh, we don't want you to be gone, Mr. Wheat. So I was like, oh man, you're making my heart feel good, because they actually weren't celebrating that I was going to be gone. Now they may have been playing me, which they're good at, because I know I'm a softie. But it's really fun. I'm loving it, and I'm getting through it. But and I appreciate your comments there. That's exactly what I'm trying to do on that. So, and to answer the question of somebody had a low performing student, I've already solved some of that. I had some, and they act like they didn't care. And so I just sat down by them and had a heart-to-heart conversation and found some of their interests. So my next assignment went towards their interest. It was, the whole class had to do it, but I knew what their interest was. So that was what, and so then they excelled at it. And it's a young lady, and she went from not even completing the first couple assignments. Now she really tries on every one of them. It may just be luck, but she is really performing well in the 90s on all of her assignments since then. So I think she just needed a little success in her life to perform. I don't know.
That's literally what I was getting. You took the word straight out of my mouth. Like because I do the project and work-based learning, I give them the parameters, but they pick the topics. So when I did PowerPoint, we went through all the sectors of PowerPoint, but when they created one, it was always, what topic do you want to learn about? Now let's create that PowerPoint. So they're figuring out what they want to research. And so once they dive in, it really helps, especially with low performing students, because now you're not dictating that it has to be some boring school subject. It can be whatever subject they want to know about. And it's really awesome because those moments tell you what their interests are. So even when they don't like you, you have that to refer back to. That way you can have that little conversation. Like, I'm not a mechanic in any way, shape, or form, but I have a student who is big in, like, he's going to Gordon Cooper Technology Center for auto body. And so I don't know anything about cars. He gets to teach me about cars. And so we have bridged that gap where he didn't like me because I was a hard teacher. And now we have a connection to where we can actually have a dialogue where he knows that it's not an area that I'm good at. So it makes him look better than me, not in a negative connotation, but in a positive, in that he can teach me something, and he loves it. And to see that spark in his eye change from hating my class to, even if it's tolerating my class, made all the difference in the world to me. Because at the end of the day, I say this in every education thing that I do, is it always goes back to, they don't care what you know until they know you care. That line should be on every teacher's wall to remind you of why you're there, because you didn't become a teacher to teach curriculum. You came there to make a difference in kids' lives. And so when you can bridge that gap, it means all the difference in the world. So I don't know. I don't remember who asked that question, but I hope that helps and really gives you some tools to help with that.
One of the updates to that question that was originally asked about the low performing students is one of the students has Down syndrome. So the challenges of instruction are a little bit different than what you would address with a different, a normal, in a normal situation in a different classroom. I don't know. Can anyone recommend?
I always just work directly with the special education instructor, because they could tell me, because they've usually had them long enough. Well, I'm at a small school, so they've had them all the way through middle school and in high school. So by the time they get to me, I can say, okay, where is my benchmark? Like, gotcha. is it so I did a 5-page paper for the last 2 weeks with the rest of my class. So I had a student who obviously couldn't perform to that level. So I went to that teacher and I said, hey, where is my benchmark? Well, if you can get a half a page, that'll be great. So me and that kid sat down and we choked out a half a page. Did it take 2 weeks? Yeah, It took 2 weeks to get half a page, but we got half a page.
Well, good.
And so I think there's something to be said with making that connection with your special education teacher.
Okay. And I know in some cases, a parent will come to class with their students and sometimes they don't. So definitely what Trent said, make that connection with their teacher that's with them the majority of the day, because they will know them best. Any other challenges or questions? That's a good idea, Tina. Modify the lesson so the child can have some success. Not always possible, but that is definitely a good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk topics for January, because many of you will be returning to hang out with us for another day. Do you have any questions or topics that you would like to hear about? Don't everyone speak at once. It's too loud in here. DECA competitions. Okay. Now I know that Paxton is, you're going to have to tell us, Mark. Paxton is hosting some different, I see him going for the dates, hosting some different PD on our CTSOs for DECA and for BPA. Mine's up on my wall over there. Do you have the dates, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know that those were on.
Well, I know we had some September 1st, so of course those have already passed, but I'll talk to her and let her know that that's one of the requests is DECA competitions.
But I know there were like some boot camps for BPA and DECA
Yes.
that were going to come up. I thought I have them on my calendar. I was going to see if I could.
Oh, okay. I
I
forgot
have
about
so many things on my calendar. It's like, you know, looking at a dartboard. So, but I know she has one for each of them. So
BPA boot camp is November 17th. That one I do see. And then DECA competition training on my update, it's to be announced. That date has not been set yet.
yeah, maybe so.
Would love a list of fundraising ideas. Darla, I drove through Beggs yesterday on my way home from way out east, north, southeast. Yes. And I thought of you, but it was already after 3. So I didn't stop to bug you, but I did think of you. Fundraising ideas. Does anybody have any fundraising
And
ideas that you want
if
to
you want
share?
fundraising ideas in the meantime, you can go to that teacher resources page, and in the glossary, click on fundraising, and you'll find a plethora of ideas in there for now. But we're happy to do a workshop on fundraising ideas as well. So
The BPA boot camp information will probably be announced in our newsletter as it gets closer. So that will be in Monday Madness. That sometimes comes out on a Tuesday. I can't help it. It's beginning of school year. It's crazy here too. Roadhouse rolls. Yes, that's a great one. That's a good one. Okay, Randy's idea. Who's Randy? Were the Roadhouse rolls Randy's idea? The virtual option for training works. I understand. Randy. Yes, thank you.
I just want to know if Randy sells more or eats more of those rolls. Make sure you tell him that Mark wanted to know too. So
Yeah, poor Randy. He's probably not even here to defend himself. I will pass along the message for the virtual training. I can't imagine that. I mean, I don't know. I almost feel like that's kind of where we are at this point. There will probably be a virtual training offered most times. Okay. Anyone else? It's 2:42 according to my clock over here. Are we ready to go?
For anyone that does have questions or need things, I will hang out for a while in case you have one-on-one questions. I'm happy to hang out here for a little bit.
And I
I'm
will
sure
put
Kristen
the
will too, so.
link back in the chat again. Do not forget to register. We want to make sure that you get credit for being here today. Carrie, we appreciate you. Thank you for being here today.
Mark, to Steve, do you have any, I want to go over some safety things, internet safety, and I've looked at so many different things. I just can't find anything that I really, I'm just jumping out at me. Do you have any suggestions or things for some safety, internet safety?
Yeah, have you checked out the one on CT Master Educator, the internet safety for students? That's the one that a lot of folks are using. If you don't like the one on CTU, I know the internet safety for students on CT Master Educator is really popular right now.
Okay.
Do you have a CT Master Educator login, Steve?
Oh, I went through all that, when they sent that out, and I can't remember if I missed that window and I didn't follow up, or I couldn't tell you if I did or not. I haven't been there so long, so.
That's okay. So if you just go to ctmastereducator.com.
Okay.
You might have actually saved your login credentials, or if not, I can have a gentleman resend you your login credentials,
Okay.
and I can actually have him enroll you in that course so you can see it.
All righty.
But that's one that a lot of people are using, and it's actually got a built-in quiz in it already.
That's even better.
If you want to check that one out. So,
All right. Thank you.
yep, I'll email him right now and have him resend that stuff to you.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Christy, everyone's free to go unless they have questions for us. Is that right?
For sure. Yes. Yes.
All righty. Unless you have questions for us, you're free to go. Thanks for joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, excellent weekend. As always, if we can be of any assistance, please let us know. Thanks for joining us. Does anybody on this call have questions for us? We may have just put him to sleep.
Oh
Of course, poor Tina, I think she's been kind of under the weather.
no.
Yeah. Glad she was able to join us, though.
Guess we could stop recording. This is going to be a doozy.